more needed to be said other than to introduce our very first speaker this evening, Wayne Stewart, if you would like to head towards the stage. Wayne is the Managing Director and the Office Principal at Century 21 Newcastle. Wayne has been in the property industry for 37 years and has a wealth of experience, and he's going to share some of that this evening with us, both with the residential sales and project marketing. He has a formal education in architecture and construction. In 2005, he joined the board of Real Estate Institute of New South Wales and was voted to president by his peers from 2009 to 2011. Wayne will be sharing the pros and cons of purchasing property off the plan. Thank you, Wayne.
We're here tonight to talk about property. Mark and Ty and myself, we're going to give a balanced view of I'm going to talk about off the plan sales in Newcastle. Mark's going to talk about existing property, and Ty's going to talk a bit about commercial. So there'll be plenty of time for questions and that afterwards. But certainly, you know, if there's anything you want to ask a question about along the way, just please put your hand up. Now, off the plan sales, I mean, I suppose at the moment we're seeing this bit of a boom happening in Newcastle. From an agent's point of view, we see this window of opportunity happening about every 10 years or so. There's a lot of good things happening in Newcastle, and I mean, we've all heard about the infrastructure spend through the state government at the moment. So all eyes is on Newcastle, and look, Newcastle has been, and the Hunter in a general has been a place that, from an investment point of view, the country has had its eyes on for a lot of years now, probably a good 10 years. So, and I think probably the strength of the place here is that not only are we a very diverse marketplace as far as employment goes, because everybody thinks about the Hunter and coal, but coal probably sits as far as the Newcastle, and it goes down around number 4 or 5 or something. But I mean, we're a diverse marketplace, but the most important thing from a Newcastle point of view and the good lifestyle is that we're still very affordable, and that's why I think a lot of people and a lot of eyes are on Newcastle and the Hunter. Now, I'm just going to talk tonight a bit about buying off the plan. There's a lot of apartments going up around Newcastle and the inner suburbs, and people get concerned at you know, what the truth is about whether buying off the plan is a good thing or a bad thing. And people say, you know, is buying off the plan cheaper than buying something that's already built? In a lot of cases, it possibly can be. It depends really on the developer's point of view, whether they need to get quick sales to get the job out of the ground. Really, real estate tends to sell for a price whatever the market dictates at the time, and really the market does dictate the price of real estate across the board. So the good thing about buying off the plan is that it does give you a bit of time to breathe. So when you're buying off the plan, most of the time, with most of the sales happening around Newcastle, is that you'll talk to an agent, and the developer has got a set of plans where you can look at a design, and you buy today, and you're going to probably move in or gain title to that property somewhere between 12 and 24 months down the track. So the good thing about buying off the plan is it does give you time to breathe. If you're an owner-occupier purchasing off the plan, you've got that added advantage of being able to put all your affairs in place before you actually have to pay your full settlement fee for it. So shopping around for the best mortgage, I mean, you've got a plethora of mortgage opportunities out there in the marketplace today, so you've got that opportunity to be able to shop around for a mortgage. The other thing is coordinating the sale of an existing place. If you're an owner-occupier, for instance, a lot of the time you may be moving from an existing property, coming into the city for the city lifestyle and getting rid of mowing lawns and all that sort of stuff, but you probably need to be able to sell your existing property to be able to finally purchase the property. So buying off the plan does give you that time to be able to look around, make sure that you've got your property in order, get some indication from the agents and professionals in the marketplace as to what your property's truly worth, and look at the best way of presenting your property to the market. So that's probably a good thing, is saving time. I often get asked, over the last few years we've been talking about the fact that there's a housing crisis throughout Australia, and there certainly has been. I mean, the biggest problem over the last 10 years is that we just haven't been building enough housing across Australia to be able to suffice with the current marketplace, and that's really what's been pushing the price of real estate up. So, you know, we're probably seeing a lot of job starts both in the residential home sales. We haven't seen construction starts like this for probably a good 7 or 8 years. And of course, with all the new apartments going through the city, we'll probably see that the housing crisis is certainly not as bad as what it has been over the last 10 years. Now, the other thing about buying off the plan is the ability to be able to capitalise on capital growth. So, you know, when you buy today, especially in a market as we've seen over the last few days, you're buying at today's prices, but you're settling at tomorrow's prices. So, off the plan sales, as we said, we're looking at 18 to 24 months. Most of the time you're only paying a minimum deposit of say 10%. Most contracts provide for a 10% deposit or a similar amount in a bank guarantee or a deposit bond. And then you're able to keep your money either tied up in your existing real estate or in the bank until settlement. So that's one of the other benefits about that, is you are incurring that capital growth which may occur on the property. Many developers also offer discount prices, as I mentioned a little earlier. So to be able to get a lot of these jobs out of the ground where they're being financed externally, the developers need to be able to sell anything from 50 to 70% of the properties off the plan before they can actually get a lot of these jobs out of the ground. So a lot of developers will, in the very early stages, just to get that initial spurt of sales and get the market moving, will offer some discounted prices to get you in there. So, I mean, if you're able to take advantage of that, you don't see it happen too often, but if you're able to take advantage of that, well, that's an extra benefit of buying off the plan, because you tend to find that even by the time the jobs come to a situation where most of the properties are sold, the properties are actually reselling for more than what you've paid for it. So there's a good opportunity there for capital growth. It also gives you time to save, and at the end of the day, less time to borrow. I know I've got one of my young fellas at the moment that's buying an off-the-plan property, and one of the good things about it, knowing what he earns, he's been a terrible saver up until now, as we tend to be when we're young. But the fact that he's actually committed now and put a deposit down on a property, he knows now what he's going to be able to save, and he was so proud that in 1 month he's been able to save $5,000, which is more than he's saved in his whole life. But I think the fact that you're able to make a commitment and work towards the end of knowing what you need for settlement, you can either make sure that you're saving more to lessen the amount that you need to borrow at the end, or you're able to probably save, if you are moving in, you might be saving for the furnishings, or saving equity for some other reason with the property. So it does give you that ability to be able to save more. And knowing that you put deposit down in exchange gives you that time to save for the furnishings and anything else that you may need for along the way, curtains, blinds, all those things that go with remodelling or bringing the apartment up to date. Of course, the government incentives, the first and second home buyers, which has changed a little bit over the last few years. The first homeowners grant for first home buyers, the scheme has changed a little bit and will change again in the near future. It's currently sitting at $15,000 if you're a first home buyer. It will reduce to $10,000 on the 1st of January in 2016, and that's up to properties of $750,000. Stamp duty exemption for first home buyers on homes is up to $550,000, and there's concessions from $550,000 through to $650,000. So it tapers down between $550,000 and $650,000. That can provide for a first home buyer, can provide up to $35,000 worth of incentive for a first home, which there'll be many of you here who sort of wish that they had those sort of incentives when we bought our first home. So it is a great incentive, and I think that's why a lot of first home buyers these days are looking at new homes if they can afford a new home, or they're certainly looking at apartments. And I've seen it in Sydney over the last 20 years. I've seen a lot of young people who, especially are working in Sydney, that make their choice to actually buy an apartment rather than a home. And I think you'll start seeing that a lot in the Hunter now, that a lot of young professionals will choose to make their first home in an apartment rather than a home with a backyard, for a lot of reasons, none more so than the fact that there's some great government incentives for it. The new home grant, also for anybody buying a property, a new property or a property off the plan, is still at $5,000 for purchase of a new home or unit, and that's up to $650,000 as well. So my girls put a couple of little cartoons in there, so I don't know if you guys can read that. I barely can read that. So depreciation. Now, depreciation's not a dirty word. I mean, a lot of people, when we're talking real estate, think that depreciation's a dirty word, and the properties are there to appreciate. But certainly if you're an investor, the taxation benefits through depreciation there are enormous. And once again, buying off a plan, the newer the property is, the better the depreciations are. So as with all investment properties, there are some significant tax benefits. These benefits are greater when the property is newer because of the tax depreciations that are available. Okay, so the depreciations vary. For the building, you're looking at about over a 20-year period, so about 2.5% a year. But then you've got different periods of depreciation depending on the cost of the product that you're buying, whether you're buying curtains and bits and pieces for the property that you can also depreciate. So you talk to your financial advisor for that, all those sorts of things. But certainly the maximum benefits are there when the apartments are new. So the apartments provide a greater appreciation advantage than a new home, as the percentage of construction per site area is greater. So when we're talking about, you might be looking at buying a new house and land package in a suburban estate, the depreciation on an apartment building is greater because the size of the building on the apartment is greater on the site area than it is for a house and land, which is common sense. There's also other things such as your lifts and your common area and plant and all that you've got depreciation on as well. So the other thing about buying off the plan is that you've got more choice. So if you're able to get in early enough in a development, you've got the ability of being able to choose which level you want to be on. Obviously, budget will come into that. Whether you want 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, whether you want to face north, south, east or west, and if in some circumstances there may even be a colour selection. So obviously you've got that benefit the earlier you get in on off the plan purchase of being able to choose a lot of the things that go with that particular development. Normally you wouldn't get that opportunity if you're buying something that's in the existing marketplace, and you're probably not going to get that opportunity as the building sales get towards the end. So you do have to be quick to be able to get that choice. And obviously a wide range of choice means the ability to be able to make sure that you do get that superior position aspect and floor layout, okay, which is important in a particular building if you're looking at making sure that you get your maximum capital growth in that within a particular development within the city. We still get a lot of people looking for land. Land's an acute shortage throughout the whole region at the moment, and there is a bit of a boom on with new housing. Building the apartments, we'll talk a little bit about new homes versus apartments and the advantage of that in a moment. But once again, buying land off the plan, which you tend to have to do at the moment. I mean, if you are buying land because land is selling faster than it's being developed at the moment. I know with a couple of our developments where we're a stage ahead of ourselves at the moment. So if you are buying, you virtually have to buy off the plan, and you have to be prepared to be able to wait 12 months for the land to register. So the only caution in that is you'll shop around for the builders. The good thing is you get a choice of thousands of different builders and designs out there to be able to choose from when building your home. The builders will, if you're buying off the plan, land will try to talk you into dealing with them sooner than later. You just got to look at the tender time. So they'll go and give you a price to build on that respective block of land. A lot of the time that tender will only last 90 days. So it's important if you're buying land off the plan and then you're going to pay a deposit for the construction of a new home on that particular block of land, that you look at the tender time, how long that is. I know there are quite a few builders out there that are offering 12-month tenders, which is sensational, because a lot of the time with off the plan sales on land, especially with the elements, you can wait up to 12 months for that land to be registered, and unfortunately if it's not registered by the time the tender ends, well, there's a good chance you're going to end up with a price that's rising with the builder, so keep that in mind. So as I said there, you've got thousands of home designs and sizes and facades which will suit budgets. So it doesn't matter which budget you're looking at, you'll usually find if you're buying a house and land that there's going to be an opportunity there. The most important thing when you're buying something from an investment point of view, and look, whether you're buying your first home, I always say to young people buying their first home, this is probably one of the most important investments that you'll ever make in real estate. So it's important that whether you're buying something for yourself or buying something for investment, that you look at it as an investment property, because they're all investment properties. So look at the location that's in the respective area that you're looking at. Look at the infrastructure and the potential spend on infrastructure. Maybe do some research. There's some great websites out there to look at the investment potential of particular areas that are out there. Talk to the local real estate agents about what's happening in that particular area, especially with infrastructure and maybe proposed new amenity, and what transport and what growth is there. So that's all important for there. And of course the risk. You look at the other side of what are the risks of building in that area. Is it an area that's dependent? You know, if we look at areas such as the Upper Hunter at the moment, where they were probably very dependent on the mining industry, there's a bit of devastation up there. So if you're going to look at an area for buying in from an investment point of view, it's good to look at an area that's got some balance in it, so that it's not dependent on one particular industry or something in the market that can go wrong. Look at the rental potential, employment growth, and the potential capital growth, and the availability of future land, because obviously if you're buying into an area where there's thousands of land releases, it's going to stifle your growth in those areas. We talked about apartments versus new homes. Not only are off the plan apartments usually more affordable than houses, but they're more likely to provide higher rental returns, body corporate building management, closer proximity to the amenities such as employment hubs and transport and shops. They make it more attractive to tenants for those same reasons. The vacancy rates on apartments are usually lower, and it's usually better security as an outcome. It wouldn't be right if I didn't look at the other side of the equation from a balance point of view. So the disadvantages of buying is that, especially if you're an owner-occupier, is you can't move in immediately. It probably doesn't matter to those that are investors, but you can't move into the apartment. You've got to wait up to your 24 months. We could be in a situation like we were in 2008, where the market went the other way. It doesn't happen very often, especially here in Newcastle, and probably Newcastle, when compared to the rest of the country, probably was one of the better performing areas throughout the GFC than any other location. But certainly if you looked at the top end of the market, certainly up around the apartments that were around that $1 million mark during the GFC, there was a bit of value wiped off them, which took a few years to recover. So once again, if you were financing before then, and you may have found that the valuations on that top end of the market may be less when you actually finished than when you actually bought off the plan. The development may not go ahead. So it once again doesn't happen too much down here, but you do hear stories of people paying deposits and it not going ahead. Certainly if it's a situation where a developer who needs that 60 to 70% off the plan sales, if he can't raise those sort of sales, he may decide to shelve the development. It may not be as good, the grant incentive, as it looked off the plan, and the situations can change, such as children, marriage, divorce, all that can change your motivation. Tips for buying off the plan: health check your financial position now and for the future. Look at the median prices for similar properties in that area. This is all important research to do. Research the track record of the project team, the architect, the builder and the agent that's selling it. Track the settlement date throughout construction. So if you've got a good development team and an agent there, you'll tend to find they'll keep in track through a newsletter or something like that. And lastly, but more importantly, research the track record of the developer. Judge the investment first and not the tax benefit. So a good investment must be profitable over time in this respect. It shouldn't and it should give you steady income throughout the project. So whilst this income will incur some tax, it's important that you consider a prospective purchase from its total investment value and not the taxation benefits. So things such as negative gearing and depreciation are certainly great there, and it'll help reduce your tax. But unless the investment is a performing investment, there's not much benefit in really being in it. So there's no point in having negative gearing without the capital growth. So that's very important. That's about it from me, guys.